shaking? What's happening? What's doing? My name's Dave McCrae, coming to you live from the Voice Man Studios in Toronto, Canada. This is episode 198 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. He's Tony Michael in Atlanta, Georgia. And tonight we're talking supernatural infection horror. Are you a fan? Ladies and gentlemen, we are live! Laura Burns is back. That's all right.
Like Mad Max.
Yeah. It's the 80s show tonight with Mad Max on the stream. 198 episode 198. Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. I don't know if I said the date. It's Monday, March the 31st, 2025, 7:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And looks like Laura Burns is back. She does. I don't know what. I don't know if she just. I don't know what's going on. For those of you new to the show, ever since Tony and I watched Unfriended on this channel, every now and then Tony's camera will glitch, and we just feel that it's Laura Burns from Unfriended. And sometimes it resolves itself and it works itself out, and sometimes Tony's got to exit out and come back in, which may be a case here. I'm not sure. Oh, look at that. He adjusted his camera. I bet you it's a loose connection. I bet you there's some sort of loose connection or something. Oh, no. No. Fuck, goddamn son of a... Jeez, that damn Laura Burns. Well, you know what? Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week. No. Well, welcome to episode 198 of Two Gentlemen and Some Feces. We'll see if anybody rolls on in tonight. I don't know if anybody will, if anybody cares about this topic, but you just recently got around to watching Smile 2. You watched Talk to Me, so you were catching up with that, and you sent me a message last night, and you said, you know, something I've noticed.
Yeah, I also watched It Follows today.
Oh, you watched It Follows today. Great. So tell the viewers out there what it is you told me last night, because you kind of have a point. You do have a point with this sort of supernatural infection horror.
Well, like I was telling you, I don't know if anyone has talked about this or has made the connection to these three movies. They're very similar. They're very similar as far as the monster, if you will.
Right.
Supernatural being, whatever it is, that the person who's infected by it is only able to see it. However their approach is kind of like, if you look at the way the slasher genre of the 80s developed, started with
right.
Leatherface and Michael, and then you had Freddy and Jason. When you really dissect Halloween, Friday the 13th, Texas Nightmare,
yeah,
they're pretty much the same story, just recycled, repackaged, and told in a different way. But it's basically monsters chasing young, helpless victims, and so on and so forth. So then when you start looking at It Follows, and you look at Talk to Me, and you look at Smile, same thing. You have some type of invisible force that only that person is able to see because they are the infected person at the time. And they're being stalked by this, again, what do you call it? A supernatural force and whatnot. So did they inadvertently create a new genre that really no one is talking about in the horror, in the horror community?
Yeah, and it's entirely possible. I mean, as we know, the horror genre has so many subgenres. You know what I mean?
I mean, slasher, paranormal,
supernatural, possession, body horror, found footage. It goes on.
When you look at these three films specifically, they're very similar in a lot of ways.
Right.
But repackaged and rebranded and told in a different story,
Sure.
Smile, the person is killing themselves right in front of them. And that's how that person becomes infected. And they end up, going Looney Tunes by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And they're being stalked by this invisible force that they can't really explain. Same thing in It Follows. I had to do a refresher on that because it's been a minute since I seen it. That's why I watched it. And it's basically the same thing. She sleeps with the guy, she becomes infected, and she's being stalked by these invisible forces that are out to hurt her and ultimately kill her. Right? That's basically what with the exception of Talk to Me, she ended up killing herself. I forgot that usually, or that's what happened at the end of that movie. And then she becomes the ghost, and the kid is reaching his hand out at the end of the film and whatnot. But
Right.
ultimately it's the same. It's like, what did I call it in the message to you? I called it the Ouija board version of this genre, but it's not, obviously it's not Ouija board, but
Right. Right.
right. And, um,
Yeah.
doing a seance like thing. And then with Smile too, if you wanted to talk about that quickly,
Sure.
now that I've watched it in its entirety, and then we can get back to the genre as a whole with these
Yeah.
three movies. And there might be other movies out there
Oh, there definitely
that
is. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that people might go, hey, have you seen this? And if there are, let me know.
Yeah. Throw it in the chat room
Similar
and
type movies.
yeah.
But yeah, so I agree with what you were telling me last week with regards to Smile 2. The lead, which she was really, really good.
Terrific.
She carried the movie very well. I didn't like the ending only because I kind of predicted the ending. I saw what was. I literally called it out, and I said,
Sure.
as soon as she got into the freezer, I was like, this isn't real, and she's going to be on stage, and then she's going to infect like 15,000 teeny boppers. And
Right.
when that happened, I
Yeah.
was just like, man, really? Like, the one thing I will say that I like about Smile, the first one and the second one, is I like the intimacy of it. That it's only one person or
Yeah.
maybe two people infected. Well, now what? When you go to the third film, what is it going to be like? An apocalyptic type thing where everyone's infected and smiling at each other and committing suicide or whatever.
Yeah, I agree with what you've said, or what you said in the message last night, which was hang on a sec here. Let me just bring my test. That's a little better. I agree with what you've said last night when we were talking, which was, you really like, the sort of intimacy of it, the claustrophobic nature in terms of, you smile at somebody, then you get infected. Like, it's not, nobody knows about it. Right. And
right.
And
that's
and
the thing. Like, you're going crazy and no one else around you, knows what's going on with you.
Right. Right.
Now, like, what does everyone know? And if everyone knows, that kind of loses its charm.
Well, yes. And however, unless the director, because the original Smile was based on a short film that he had done.
Right.
And one of the actors in that short film is in Smile, very much like what David Sandberg did with Lights Out, right? He had his wife, I think it was his wife, who was the girl in the short film, and then he puts his wife in the actual feature as well. And then you have Smile 2, which I really liked. I might have liked it more than most people, but I really appreciate the oneer at the beginning. I love a good oneer. I mean, I did 2 of them in my own films, where you just have a shot that goes on and it doesn't cut, and it was really, really well done. And again, the lead, I thought there were great moments of suspense and tension and eeriness, and but to your point, then at the very end, she's on stage, and now everybody in that arena is presumably infected.
Right.
However, my understanding is, and I forgot the director's name now, but I believe the director wants to complete this now, right? So there's an evolution, right? You have the first one, and then you have the second one, which is a little more out there and a little more rambunctious than the first one, and now you have the third one. And I think his goal is to wrap it up. So maybe it's all coming to this big climax where now everybody does know about it, and there's no reason to go on. Like, he wants to finish the story, and now everybody knows about it. Because yes, if everybody knows about it and everybody's infected, I agree with you. I mean, you can't get 3 or 4 movies out of that, because then it loses its suspense and mystique. Right.
Because the suspense of it is that no one else knows, and they can't. No one can see what's happening to you.
Yeah.
Only you can see that. Similar to like with It Follows, and also Talk to Me as well too, and whatnot. But what I did like, and I wish he had more. I wish he went more in that direction. Was I wish the nurse was real, and that it wasn't in her head, and that his theory on how he could beat it by putting her under kind of like almost like a flatliners type scenario.
Mm.
I liked that idea. I was like, oh, okay, so she's going to go, head to head with this, thing, this
Right.
entity, whatever, and they're going to finally beat it. I was like, okay, that's a cool idea, kind of a flatliners approach and
Right.
whatnot.
Right.
So I thought that's where he was going to go with it. And then obviously when they get to the Pizza Hut freezer there, and then it doesn't turn into that, and it was all just in her head and none of it was real. I was just like,
Yeah, I wasn't bothered by it, but I can certainly understand why some might.
well, because of the payoff being she's actually on stage, and that's where she has her confrontation with the monster, and then everybody gets infected.
Yep.
If it was just in the room and it wasn't on stage, you know what I mean? Then, oh, okay.
Right.
Like I can, and the guy gets infected. Like the guy was real, the nurse.
Right.
You know what I mean? And maybe that was the plan. But the moment he left the room, I was just like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like from that moment, I was like, son of, because like, why would he need to leave?
That's
you know, like you're in, like, you're at like, you're in emergency mode right now. Like, why do you need to leave this girl by herself in this situation?
Right.
When you're about to put and as soon as he left the door or walked out of the room, I was just like,
what'd you think about her killing her mother? That was pretty epic.
But then is she really dead because she's in the stands at the end of the movie?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Was that in her head?
Or is the whole situation at the end of the movie in her head? And she's on stage alone.
Dead? But isn't she dead though at the end?
Oh, I don't know.
Like on stage.
I can't remember.
So like again, so I don't know like what was real and what wasn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Good in that regards. Yeah, I'll
be curious to see what he does with the third one. I believe I believe the intention is to do a third one and wrap it up. Like that's it. Because again, I mean, I don't see where you go with it. I think it's just going to be, diminishing returns, at the end of the day. Talk to Me, I really enjoyed. I don't think it needs a Talk to Me too, or Talk to Me, which they are doing. But I enjoyed it. I mean, it's for a first feature film from these guys, and I think they were YouTubers who had a YouTube channel, tons of followers, obviously made this film. It got picked up by A24, or did A24 produce it? I can't remember. They definitely distributed it. I don't know if they produced the original one, but they distributed it. And I mean, again, it's competent filmmaking. And obviously, these guys have shown that they can make a competently made horror film. So I'm very curious to see their Bring Her Back, which you just watched the teaser for, and the official trailer, I believe, drops tomorrow. So, but
yeah, I think of the three films, I probably would go It Follows for sure. That would be my favorite. And then I would say the first Smile, and then Talk to Me, and then Smile 2.
Right.
Yeah. I Talk to Me is good. It's just like I said, like, are we now in a genre? I mean, that's what the movie industry does, right? Leatherface, well, really, Leatherface wasn't successful. Michael becomes successful, so now let's put a guy in a hockey mask. Okay, let's put a guy in your dreams, and okay, let's turn a doll.
That's it.
I mean, it's just, and so I think maybe with the success of It Follows, you're now seeing this domino effect of these types of supernatural, infectious horror slasher type movies, and I like it, because each film does have its own identity, even though there is a familiarity to the three movies and the three stories.
Yeah,
with that whole, supernatural being stalked by this invisible force that only the infected person can see. I think it's really creative. Obviously, you don't want to oversaturate the market and do too many movies like that. And of course, obviously now we know they're doing They Followed, and I hope they don't screw that up. Because It Follows, I was telling you that last week, that's, definitely between that and The Conjuring, those two are probably my two favorite horror movies. The first Conjuring. Yeah. Are probably my two favorite horror movies since 2012.
And what's her face that was in It Follows is coming back.
She is.
Yeah.
And they're 10 years removed. That movie came out in 2015.
Yeah.
So so it'll be 11 years by the time it hits theaters, right? Yeah. I don't think it's coming out this year, right?
I don't think so, but the chat room can let us know. But Yeah, no, I am looking forward to They Follow, and I'll be very curious to see how the story is expanded, how the narrative is expanded, and what they do
And
with
like,
it.
has she survived in this like whatever thing that she, for the
Right.
last decade? I got to believe they're moving 10 years forward. They're
You
not
would
gonna,
think so,
yeah,
or at least
and
5 to 6 years, something like that.
minimally. And I was paying attention a little bit closer to the set design of It Follows this time, because I really am trying to pinpoint when is this taking place. And I did see if so when she's on her date and they're standing outside the movie, there is a girl who's an extra and she's looking at her phone.
Right.
So it's set in current times. But I'm wondering if like the way he approached it was like,
You're wondering if he's going to keep that sort of ambiguity of the era,
right, that maybe it's more like, I'm going to give you a 90s and 80s vibe, to this film, but not really pinpoint when this, what period of time this is.
right?
Is this in the 80s and 90s? Is it with the technology but minus social media?
Right.
Because
Right.
most horror movies now, and even I think they did that in Talk to Me, right, where they referenced a few social media references with filming their phones and stuff, and
Yeah.
videotaping the seance, whatever you want to call it, and obviously Talk to Me, it heavily hits on social media, especially in the sequel, because she's a singer and whatnot, and I get that.
Oh, you mean Smile?
Smile too. Yeah. So with It Follows, it's very hard to pinpoint, and I've been trying to lock in, like, is he setting this in the 90s, but with technology that we have today, but just minus social media? So
it could be. It could be. I'm curious about it.
And
I mean,
the girl who's reading her little thing there in the birth control thing.
Yep.
There's a little Wi-Fi bar. So it's like, okay, so they've got Wi-Fi technology. So so if it's 2015, it's 2015, but minus a lot of the things that we're used to seeing in 2015.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which again, creative. I like that creative process.
Yeah. For sure. I'm definitely excited to see what they do with They Follow, because I did like It Follows. I liked the simplicity of it. Again, less is more. Anytime you can create a very creepy, eerie horror movie without having to resort to blood, guts, and gore, you've earned my respect. And both, I mean, even though Smile does get a little sensational, they're not, Smile, Talk to Me, It Follows, they're not overly gory at all. And so
no, they have their moments, tastefully done. And
yeah. But I really appreciate that. And it's going to be interesting to see what other. I saw somebody in the chat mention The Ring. I don't know if you were mentioning that, talking to somebody else in the chat, or if you were suggesting that that's a supernatural infection horror. And I don't quite agree with you on that. The Ring, because nobody is infected with Samara, or whatever her name is.
Coming after you.
Yeah. It like you get cursed. Maybe it's cursed. Perhaps. So there's like a curse, but you're not necessarily infected with an entity that can control your mind and make you see things that aren't actually
everybody
there.
Can see her.
Right. That's right. That's right.
The other thing. So like if you watch the video, like I believe everybody can see her regardless. She's just coming after you specifically.
Right. So, and The Ring from, 2002 is, it's one of my favorite remakes of all time.
That movie, I remember when that movie first came out, that movie creeped the shit out of me.
Oh yeah. I remember, it was being advertised as the scariest movie of all time. And it's great. It's still, I still think it holds up, and I still think it's one of the best remakes of all time. I think it's one of the best, and it's a PG-13 horror movie, and I think it's one of the best horror movies ever made.
It's a remake?
Yeah. The 2002 remake of the 1998 original.
The Japanese.
Right. Which is a great film too.
Yeah.
Great film. Japanese horror is
It had its
Really
niche,
good.
but then it kind of fizzled.
Well, I would say the American remakes of Japanese horror did. The Japanese are still making horror movies, but of course they're not necessarily being released over here. So you'd have to kind of seek them out. But yeah, no, you're right. There was that time.
There was a brief period like Ring and
The
Grudge.
Grudge. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So they had like a little bit of a run of those kinds of films.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you see the remake of The Grudge from a couple of years ago at all? They remade. Yeah, they did. I don't know. Did you see it?
No, I did, however, waste my time on the remake yesterday of Cabin Fever, and that was horrible. Like that was like some fucking Kmart acting. Like,
right.
What the hell? It was just so bad. I mean, it was basically ripping off a lot of the things that you saw in the first. The first one was actually pretty decent. Cabin Fever.
Yeah, it was with Ryder Strong.
Ryder Strong, yeah. That was solid. It kind of came
Eli
out
Roth.
during Eli Roth. It came out during the whole that run there with like Wrong Turn and
it was 2003 or 4.
Yeah, like the early 2000s.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater. When
I realized, I was like, first of all, like, why are they making a remake of this like 14 years later?
Right.
Secondly, like it was just like the acting was. It was bad. I mean, it was just really bad.
Right.
Yeah, no.
I have not seen the remake of Cabin Fever, and nor will I ever probably see the remake of Cabin Fever. So, but Cody Snyder sends in a super chat, $2. Thanks, Cody. Says she's in here, by the way. I guess talking about Samara from The Ring, maybe because of the glitching on your.
That's Laura Burns.
That's Laura Burns from Unfriended. But yeah, folks, look, I mean, let us know, if you're watching after the fact, jump into the comment section, let Tony and I know, some of your favorite, what we kind of are calling, I mean, it's a little bit long for a title, but, we're not quite sure what else to call it, supernatural infection horror. And
it's a genre. I mean,
I think it is.
When you've got 3 movies that are similar in storytelling.
Yeah.
That's a genre.
Yeah, yeah. And you can't just say infection horror, because then that would also include like, viruses and things like that and plagues and all that.
Right, because you can get into like 28 days. 28 days. Am I thinking of that?
Yeah. No, exactly. So you have to be very specific and be like supernatural infection horror. You know what I mean? So even in the chat room right now, I mean, if you can think of others that kind of have similar premises where there is this supernatural thing, whatever it is, infects somebody, not a possession. Those are that's a different genre, where we talk about possession films. You can't
say it's necessarily a possession because the person is not, they're not possessed.
Yeah.
They're seeing things that no one else can see.
Right.
And it's stalking them like a killer would.
That's
like
right.
Jason and Michael and whatnot.
That's it. That's it.
I think what lands it for me with It Follows is the soundtrack also as well too. That guy did a really good job.
Really great soundtrack.
Scoring that movie. I mean, it's really, really good.
Yeah, it is. It is really good. But yeah, I would say, supernatural infection horror, there's an entity, a spirit, something that infects a person and they pass it on to somebody else somehow, right? And they might go crazy in their minds, or they can see things, or and to keep the virus going, to keep the infection going, it has to be passed, and whatever the case, something similar. I mean, it's not a hard fast rule. It's not a a literal genre at the moment, but it is. There are movies out there where if you want to kind of have some fun with it, you might be able to call these things sort of their
we're gonna get like similar. A Talk to Me and It Follows crossover.
Oh God, I hope not. I hope
It Follows versus Talk to Me.
Right. I hope not. Oh my God, that would be interesting. I
think we're far removed from that stuff. What I mean? Like the slashers. I mean, they'll always resurface. Well,
you know what? Sorry, dude.
No, I was just gonna say, as far as like with remakes and whatnot, but as far as the genre as a whole, unless you come up with new characters to reintroduce the genre, But when I say I don't mean like, like I know Hatchet has its, following. Terrifier has its following as well too. But and art, I'm not saying hasn't pushed the boundaries a bit into pop culture. He certainly has.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, not taking anything away from that, but it's nowhere near the height of what you and I experienced as kids in the 80s with, Michael, well, who was mostly absent for the 80s.
Mostly.
Freddie
He was asleep.
Yeah, he was asleep until the late 80s.
Yeah.
But Freddie and Jason and Michael, and eventually Leatherface as well, too. They got to come up with some new characters if you're going to have that kind of genre again. Otherwise I just, I don't know. I can't see us really. But then again, you say that, and look, how many years was it between the 1930s monster movies of the Frankensteins, which is the original monsters, Dracula and Wolfman and whatnot, before you got to Michael? You know what I mean?
It was 40 years at least.
Yeah, so who's to say, that maybe there's just, we're right around the corner of the rebirth of the slasher genre, and there's guys out there who have some ideas to bring some new characters to the table.
Yeah, I think the thing that, and I've said this before, and I think you'll agree, and I think our audience will. I don't know if our audience will agree, but hopefully they'll be able to understand my point, because I have talked about Art the Clown and Terrifier on the channel before, and the thing, and it is true that Art the Clown has made gains, and certainly the success of Terrifier 3 is unbelievable. I mean, a $2.5 million movie makes $90 million at the box office.
You absolutely can't. Yeah, absolutely.
You can't deny that. And he's certainly beginning to make those inroads to becoming more and more along the lines of a popularity in the same ways.
Do you know what he needs to bring it to that level? He needs a counter, like Freddie and Jason had each other to battle. Not saying to battle physically against. I mean, like when you had a Freddie movie, you got a Jason movie. Art the Clown is basically flying solo right now because other than Michael, but Michael's already been established. I'm talking about new characters. That's what I mean by as a counter.
Yeah,
to Art the Clown.
And
you don't have anything besides him.
That's a good point. Competition is always good.
It's great. And you want comp.
You do. But the one thing I will say, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, is the thing that, now look, it made nearly $100 million at the box office. So obviously a lot of people went to go see it. But, I don't just like to look at the surface. I like to get into the weeds and look at sort of the details of why that is, right? And I've said many times, there's a shtick, there's a gimmick and a hook to the Terrifier movies. They're unrated, first of all. And because Damien Leone could only make those movies the way that he made them if they were released unrated. And people, not everybody, it has its fans. People love Art the Clown and David Howard Thornton and, the Blood, the Terrifier. But at the end of the day, Terrifier 3, so many new people went to see Terrifier 3 because of the shtick and the gimmick and the hook. I haven't seen it either. But I'm just saying that so many people went to see it. And, they would take like their friends and pretend that it was just a normal horror movie and watch their reactions. There's a shtick, there's a hook, there's a gimmick. And I don't say that in a negative way, but there is a shtick, there's a hook and a gimmick. And that hook is you go to see the Terrifier movies. Again, generally, people go to see the Terrifier movies to see how gross this one is, to see how more crazy it will be, to see if it will be even more crazy than the last. That's the shtick. You're not going to see Halloween Freddy and Jason to see if it's bloodier than the previous movie. If it ends up being that way.
Maybe Jason, as it progressed, that's what it became, but not to the level of Terrifier.
I think maybe it became, but I don't think, I get what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like when you look
do.
at the first Friday and you look at part 2, right? The first 2 Friday films are very clean cut horror, like the original 2 Halloweens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then, you get to 5 and it's just basically tits and chopping people's heads off. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Basically what Jason and the franchise, evolved.
Right.
And I'm not knocking it. I mean, I love it. It's
but people,
it's what we grew up on.
I agree with you, but people went to see the Friday the 13th movies. I don't think to see if it outgored the film previously, or to see if it out-titted the film previously. I think they went because of Jason. And I'm not fully convinced yet, although Art the Clown is popular, put Art the Clown in a rated R horror movie where things are tame and things are pulled back. And do you have the same level of popularity? Do you have $100 million movie? I don't believe that Terrifier 3 made $90 million at the box office because people are so enamored and in love with Terrifier. I think it's the gimmick and the shtick that comes with the brand of Terrifier that puts people into the theater. Tony will be back in a second here, folks. And that's what I think sort of, there he is. That's what I think it comes down to, is that, yes, Art the Clown is popular and he's getting more popular, and they're pushing him, right? He's got people pushing him. He's got, people trying to push him into that sort of territory. And I think it's balance. I think naturally the people have to speak. And if Art the Clown resonates, he resonates. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But they're definitely giving him that push. But I think at the end of the day, what is the really yes, people like Art, and he's got a great look, and David Howard Thornton does a great job, but I think at the end of the day, when we get to the brass tacks of the whole Terrifier phenomenon, what it really is about is the blood, the guts, and the gore, and how crazy and wild and crazy it is that, I want to go see how crazy this movie's going to be. Oh my God, did you see that chainsaw thing? Oh, and everybody's going, oh, and that's what it's about. It's not really about art.
Gore porn,
right? And
doesn't really, he's the only one that I can think of that has had any level of success, even, teetering into pop culture.
Sure.
You don't see that with Hatchet. I mean, horror fans, yes, but not, not
yes,
mainstream.
He's teetering into that area because he's getting a great push by the studio, by the production company, by horror fans, by t-shirt, companies, by bobblehead companies, by, whatever it is. He's getting a great push. He's not there yet, but he's certainly further. He's certainly more there than he was 2 or 3 years ago. But I always say, I don't know what the longevity of that is. And
I think, as I said, you would have the longevity if he had a counterpart, or two. If you had a couple of new characters that you guys could be talking about on your shows, that, because you're still in the trenches doing this regular, or as regular, more, and some of the others out there, but you don't have any, you know what I mean? You don't have any other characters, to really, to sit there and talk about, so now just imagine if we were in this run here with Terrifier, and let's just say there was a character or two, you know what I mean? Now you're talking like, oh shit, you've got this rebirth of the slasher genre, right? And yes, I understand people are going to point out like, oh, Halloween 2018 came out, but Michael's already an established IP. I'm talking about new characters.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And it's a new genre as well. I mean, really at the end of the day, as I've said, the Terrifier films are splatter films, and I don't say that in a negative way, but that's what they are. They're because that's what the hook is. That's why you go to see it, right? And so if Terrifier had the same level of gore as a normal rated R slasher movie, I don't know if it would have made $90 million at the box office. This is what I'm saying. I don't know if it would be as popular as it is today. I don't know. I don't know if Art the Clown, as great as David Howard Thornton is in the role, I don't know if Art the Clown alone is enough. And because the shtick, the shtick and the hook, and it's taboo. Oh my God, we're going to the theater, and you get to take your naive friends who think they're going to watch just a regular rated R horror movie, and they're like, oh my God, and the hysteria, people barfing in the aisles, and all the hysteria that comes. That's what sells. That's what it is. You take all that away, take it all away, and it's just a regular slasher like going to see Friday the 13th movie. You can have blood in it, and there's guts in it, and there's kills in it, but it's regular, and horror fans know what I'm talking about, right? It's just your normal rated R horror movie. I don't know if Terrifier would be where it is. And I don't know what the longevity is, because it's not I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know. I don't know. And that's not me knocking on it. That's me being a realist and looking at the genre and why is this selling? Is it selling because it's a great story? Is it selling because it's great characters? Is it selling because it's a great universe? Or did you go because you want to see how bloody it is?
I think, well, there's that, but I also think he is a fresh character, right? Because again,
he is.
We've seen Michael, we've seen Freddy, we've seen Jason, we've seen Leatherface, we've seen Ghostface, we've seen Chucky. You know, we've seen these characters now for, you know, going back to the 70s with Leatherface and Michael, and through the 80s and 90s with the other characters. So he's a fresh face, so it's giving the horror fan base something new.
That's
kind of like these movies we were talking about tonight. It Follows and Talk to Me and Smile. It's something new, and I think that's what the genre is. I just think it's just desperately needing that. But
is it? I agree with everything you've said, and then I look at something like Thanksgiving with John Carver, and you look at some of the other more mainstream slasher movies that have come out recently, and they don't achieve near the success or
it's his look. It's art. It's the look of Art the Clown.
It's the look. It's David Howard Thornton, but
he packaged it just right, and it just. You know, that's the crazy thing about movies. It's like you don't know what's gonna hit, right? You know, like Art could have been a total from the short that they did, and that's it.
But that's my point, Tony.
It clicked. Everyone liked it. They liked the look of the character.
They do.
And again, because I think horror fans are desperate for just something new. You know, just a new villain and. He gave us that, you know what I mean? And yes, I mean, it is splatter. I think even if he had tapered it back, I think Art would have been successful because again, it's the package of that character. It's that, it's a very unique, it's a creepy look. And because of that newness and a new character to talk about, because, we all love talking about, the characters and
that's
whatnot. True. It gave fans something new. And, that's what I'm hoping for, with hopefully there's somebody out there that's got something penned down and, is just waiting to, get their break. And
I hope so.
We got another character.
I guess my concern is in order for Art because I agree with what you've said. And I certainly don't want to minimize the importance of, again, David Howard Thornton, the look, the character, it's important, but I'm not convinced that it would be anywhere near the stratosphere of success had it just been a regular rated R horror film. I think the shtick and the gimmick is so powerful. It's what brings people into the movie theater. It's what makes fans want to watch this because there is a taboo nature to it. It is a splatter film. You feel like, oh my God, I'm watching something I shouldn't, and there's a hook, there's a shtick, and you remove all of that and it's just regular. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, all our regular, slasher movies are great. And that's not to say that
timing's also a huge factor.
Timing's good, but I look at this and I think, does this mean we have to go to this extreme? Because as you said, to have an antithesis for Art the Clown or to have somebody else with Art the Clown, do we now need to go to, because it's not John Carver, I'll tell you that. And so do we need to go to this extreme? You're not
going to like my answer, but we do. And the reason for that is because we're so desensitized. We've seen it.
And then that runs into my next issue, which is, now I haven't seen Terrifier 3 yet. You haven't seen Terrifier 3 yet, but I do know people who have, and they've reached out to me when the movie released. Now I'm not saying everybody feels this way. Okay. Not everybody feels this way.
Yet?
Yeah, I think it's on Prime or something like that. Yeah. So not everybody feels this way, but, if you're a big Terrifier fan, not you, Tony, but the people out there, then these are some of your fellow fans who have said this to me. Maybe you feel the same way, maybe you don't, but I have had a few people reach out to me and say, went to the theater, watched Terrifier 3, or I've seen it, once or twice. I enjoyed it, but it's just kind of more of the same. So I wouldn't say it's crazier. Like there wasn't anything in Terrifier 3 that necessarily topped the bedroom scene in Terrifier 2. There was just more of the craziness of the of the bedroom scene. So now you just have there's like 95 scenes of that kind of scene. So it creates the illusion. So it is a bloodier film and it's a crazier film, but once you start hitting those thresholds, and once your gimmick and your shtick is to always top yourself in the world of blood, guts, and gore, what is the end game? How long can you continue to do that before we get desensitized to that? Because already some Terrifier fans are going, yeah, it was the same. There was just more of it, right? So Basically, they're saying to me, there wasn't anything in there that shocked them more than the bedroom scene. There was just more of the bedroom type of stuff. And so I look at that and I go, okay, so how much further can we go before this shtick wears thin?
Probably not for a long time, because I'm going to tell you why. I think we're in this time right now where you and I and our generation who grew up on the 70s and 80s movies, that's the younger generation isn't going to connect to those kinds of films and that style of filmmaking. Some will. Some, I'm not saying all, but
Nope.
there are a lot of young people who do appreciate those movies. That I'm not, but I think as the overall, to get them in the theaters, to get them to go watch it. Yeah, they're not, Halloween 78 will bore these kids to death.
Oh, snooze fest.
It is total snooze fest for this younger generation.
Yeah.
The younger generation, because you got to think of the world we live in too, and what these kids are exposed to on a daily basis. When I say kids, by the way, I'm talking like late teens, early 20s, because Dave and I are pushing 50. So
don't remind me.
They're kids. So
Jesus Christ, don't remind me.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
When we started doing YouTube, we were in our mid 30s.
No, when I started doing YouTube, we were 8. No.
Yeah, no, but really, when you think about it, because we were about our mid 30s, man, when we started this, and now we're closing in on 46 and a few years away from 50. That's fucking weird. But,
it's crazy. Crazy.
So yeah, I think with the younger generation, they need that shock. They need that Art the Clown. It doesn't even matter if it's Art the Clown. It could be anybody. I think for them, that's what's going to get them into the seats to go watch another movie like that. For people like us, Art is pretty much going to give me that. I'm not going to go see other characters doing the Art the Clown shtick. If I want to see it, I'll see it with Art, and I'll get my, that'll be my 2 hours of that kind of, gore porn.
Yeah.
And I'm done, but as far as, these kinds of movies being made, I believe for the younger audience, that's what they need. They need that kind of shock value. And those, because, even the Friday the 13th films, we took them for what they were in the 80s. They were fun, stupid, not to be taken serious. You put a bunch of, campers in a secluded area and you just let Jason run wild. Today, that shtick isn't going to really fly. We would appreciate a Friday, like we're all excited for the Pamela Voorhees series. Hopefully, thank you, Crystal Lake. And hopefully it breathes some new life into the franchise. Maybe it has a Cobra Kai type, thing to what it did for Karate Kid. And that's, fingers crossed. That's what we all want. And I don't know how far they're going to go with their kills, because this is Peacock, right?
Peacock, yeah.
Yeah. So again, but then again, that's where I watched Cannibal Holocaust. So if they got Cannibal Holocaust on there, So again, how far are we going to push it with Mrs. Voorhees in this, right? Are you going to, keep it to the same tone of the original Friday the 13th films, or are we going to do more of a modern, and, is she going to be fucking batshit crazy and doing some off the wall shit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. But
you've got to balance that, because you want to appease the OG fans, but you also want to make it enticing for the younger audience, which is what you got with Michael in Halloween Kills.
Right.
That's the most over the top, which I didn't mind. I knew what I was getting into when I watched that movie.
Right.
The only redeeming quality to that film was the flashback sequence and the kills. That's it.
Yeah.
If you actually edit out everything else, it's a pretty solid film, even though it's
Yeah.
only about 20 minutes.
Yeah. No, look, again, I agree with what you've said. I just
Now, if they take the Gore approach like they did in It Follows, Smile, and Talk to Me, because there's some intense scenes. Like I always forget about the first scene there on the beach with It Follows with the girl's leg broken.
Right.
When you see her. So if you show some of that in Friday the 13th, the Friday the 13th series, I'm okay with that. Because they didn't go over the top with it.
Well, no, it's the same as it would be in the series. I mean, it's not gratuitous gore. It's not intrusive. It's not splatter. You're not seeing actual. Well, it's not Terrifier. And Brandon Collins, one of our mods here, said, and I agree with him for the most part. He said, "Look, if I'm paraphrasing what Brandon said, and I will get to your member chat, Cody. I did see that." My apologies.
Shortly, very soon.
I'm paraphrasing what Brandon said, but he said, "Look, if Terrifier was not what it was in terms of the over the top sensational blood splatter, everything's off the table. It's just this gratuitous, wild, crazy. Oh my God. Then it probably would never have gotten a theatrical release. It would have been
it would be like
been relegated to the
series.
Right. It would have been, relegated to the bottom section somewhere on Tubi or something like that.
Like an underground thing for horror fans,
like the first Terrifier was, and so although it was still very bloody and gory, but I think it is basically people go see a Halloween movie for Michael Myers, you go see an Elm Street movie for Freddy Krueger, you go see a Friday the 13th movie for Jason Voorhees.
Well, apparently they didn't get that memo for Halloween Ends.
That's true. That is true. I'm not saying that Art the Clown isn't. He's becoming popular, and he's got a great look, and David Howard Thornton does a great job. But I still believe, and it may be, not by leaps and bounds, but I think the real character, the real star of the Terrifier films is the gratuitous, over-the-top blood, guts, and gore, and that's why you really go to the movie theater. And Art the Clown just happens to be bonus, or streaming, whatever it is.
The reason why I say that is because, like, when you did you see the Dahmer series? Mm-mm. You never saw it?
Not yet. No, not yet.
Man, you've got to watch that. So that's where again. They're doing Ed Gein now as well too.
Well, you said this last week. Yeah, you said that if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. You got to go all the way.
Right, and they're going there with it. And the reason why I bring that up is that you and I had done a show a while ago, and the topic was how do you reinvent the genre? And we said, one of the things that they really should consider is tapping into these real life serial killer stories and make movies based on that. Now, I didn't think they would do like these whole series based on the actual person, which is cool. I like that. But I still think that if you were going to reinvent the genre, that you can pull inspiration from Night Stalker, or you can pull inspiration from Ted Bundy or from John Wayne Gacy. I'm not saying you have to do the exact same thing, but if you take the inspiration and repackage it into something, for a horror movie, now you can get into, a new run of slasher films, and do you remember that episode when we did that a while back?
What episode was that?
I don't remember but we were talking about how to reinvent the genre, and ideas of what they could do. And we were talking about this was before, because we had taken a break. This was before they released the Dahmer series,
right.
And then
I just want to.
Sons there, what's their name? The Mendez kids,
right,
and whatnot. But I think to your point with Art the Clown, I think, again, the reason is it's very simple. Timing. People need a new villain. The package worked.
They do.
Everybody clung on to it. But the problem is we don't have anything else.
Well, we don't have anything else, and I don't think it's sustainable. And because it's like icing without the cake. And so, Art the Clown I don't think that model is sustainable. I don't think studios are going to try. you bet their ass are like, I wonder if we can get another Art the Clown kind of situation.
I'm sure they're trying now.
I don't think it's sustainable. That level of gratuitous violence in now it's just this brand new sort and I'm ready to be proven wrong. I'm ready to be proven wrong. And somebody might say, well, Dave, $2.5 million budget and 90 million at the box office, says otherwise. I'm like, well, yeah, but that's because most of that 90 million was from people who've yet to see a Terrifier film at all. And so this is their introduction to the whole thing. And Terrifier 4 will no doubt be very successful, but I think it's going to be diminishing returns eventually, because I just don't think that it's sustainable. I think it's too niche, and the general movie-going audience, which is your largest audience, I don't think it's going to be
sustainable for the younger audience. I don't think the older audience is going to stay with that genre unless you're someone who's really into it, obviously. But I don't think there's enough. I don't think there's enough to keep the older generation. And that's also what I was saying before, is that we're in this very unique time right now where you have like people our parents' age who grew up watching the Psychos, and that was their era of horror movies. And then you have us, with the 70s and 80s, but now you have this young generation of horror fans. And I just don't think the way they made movies for us growing up, I just don't think that's going to hit with them. With the main guys, yeah.
Oh, no, you're right. You're right.
If you're going to do a Michael or a Freddy or a Jason movie, yeah, they kind of know what they're getting themselves into. But if you're going to give a new character, then unfortunately, I think you've got to go balls to the wall, Art the Clown, because that's what this young generation wants. First of all, we all have, now I'm not even blaming young generation, everybody, we all have the attention span of a squirrel, right? Like people just can't stay locked into something very long. You got to grab them quick. And you got to keep them there. And that's the hard part, is keeping them there. And how are you going to keep them there? You're not going to keep them there from this slow burn to this build up to, the end. No, it's
I agree.
Scene, someone's getting gutted. Someone's, you know what I mean? It's just like one upping itself. And unfortunately, that's just. But
even with the kids, I wonder if they're going to get tired of it. I don't see, and again, I'm ready to be proven wrong. But I don't. Do we
have any kids that, like, when I say kids, by the way, I don't mean kids. I mean,
no. You mean like
have any 20-year-olds, 20s, late teens that are watching or following us? If you're not in the chat room now and you catch this later, leave a comment. Like, is that? Do you want that kind of Art the Clown? Like, is that what you expect from your?
Or do you find it exhausting?
Right. I'd be curious to know.
Find it. So, but anyway, yeah. So before we go over to the chat, we're coming up to almost an hour here. Do you want to quickly touch on movie theaters?
Let's go to the chats.
No, you want to go to the chat? Okay.
No, we ended up getting into a good conversation.
We did. That was good. It was good. It was a good conversation. Yeah. Okay, let me just chat room city. Let me just want to make sure I don't miss it. Cody Snyder. Brad Underwill becomes a channel member. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. Cody Snyder, been a member for 19 months, says, will you give a birthday shout out to my good friend Liana? Liana? Sure. Happy birthday, Liana, I think.
Wait, who you broke up on me? Like part of that came in and then I got the final half. So what
sorry.
Now?
Cody said, will you give a birthday shout out to my good friend Liana? And so I said, happy birthday, Liana. Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Hope you're doing well. Cody follows up and says, she's in here, by the way. Oh, she's in the chat? All right. Well, awesome. Awesome. Cody follows up again with $5 and says, I sent a member chat first asking for a birthday shout out for Liana. Thank you, Cody.
We got you, Cody.
We got you covered. Josh McKenna sends in $9.99. Thank you, Josh. Says, do you guys like Melissa Barrera better in Scream or Abigail? Well, that's a good question.
I haven't seen Abigail.
Abigail's great. I think you'd really like it.
I feel like I have seen it, though.
It's the
Why do I feel like I have?
It's the little kid, the vampire one.
Right?
Yeah, the little kid. Yeah.
Yeah, I started to watch it and I shut it off.
Oh, I went to the theater to see it and really enjoyed it. So
I started to watch it. That was on. Was that on Peacock?
I don't know where it is. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I couldn't get into it.
Oh,
couldn't do it.
That's too bad. That's when they're all in the house and the kid and they kidnap the kid. Really? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
well, hey, different strokes for different folks.
That was just one of those. I didn't hate it. I didn't. It just was like, yeah, I couldn't connect with it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I don't know,
Well,
maybe if
well,
I'm sitting with the girlfriend one night, maybe we'll watch it.
I think
Like
she'd like it.
sometimes I need to like, if I'm by myself watching it, sometimes I just like, if it's not connecting with me,
Well, look,
I'm not going to watch it. But if I'm with her, maybe then it's just like, all right, yeah, we'll watch it together. And
and
I
sometimes you
might
have,
appreciate it more,
for sure. And sometimes you have to be in the mood for a specific type of movie, because I sat down to watch John Wick Chapter 4 a few nights ago, because I've yet to see it. I've seen the first 3, obviously. I've yet to see 4. And I turned it off halfway through. Not because I thought it was a bad movie, not because I was enjoying it, but I just was like, I couldn't really, I found myself distracted, and I was thinking about other things as I was watching it.
Yes,
I wasn't on my
that's what it
phone.
was like watching Abigail. Thank you. That's what was the word I was thinking of. I was just distracted.
I was just distracted. Yep. I wasn't on my phone. I just was like, so I stopped it, and I'll go back. I mean, it's on Netflix right now. So, I'll go back to it. But, sometimes that happens. And there's movies I'm like, oh shit, that's on Netflix right now. Oh dude, I've been dying to see that. I got to watch it. And then a couple of weeks will go by. I'll be on Netflix. I'll see it again. And I'll be like, oh yeah, I really want to see that, but I'm not really in the mood to watch it right now. Like, what happened? I was in the mood. I was dying to be in the mood. And all of a sudden I'm just not in the mood to watch it. You know what I mean? That happens to me.
See, my problem is when I go to the streaming services, I just end up in a black hole of like true crime serial killer documentaries. Like, I just like, those are more intriguing because it's real life. You know what I mean? Like, I just watched this one here recently on Netflix. It was so fucked up. I can't remember the name of it. It's been out for a while, so I'm not spoiling. And when I say a while, it's been out for a real long time.
Yeah.
This woman, it's centered around this guy.
Wait 1 sec. Before you go on to that, I just want to answer Josh's question, which was, do we prefer Melissa Barrera in Scream or Abigail? Well, Tony hasn't seen all of Abigail yet.
I haven't seen it, so I can't really give an honest answer.
For me,
so let me see it, and then I'll.
For me, it's hard to say. I thought she was great in Abigail, and I thought she was great in both Scream movies. I think she's quite talented. So I don't really have an answer for that, but I do really like her as an actress. Anyway, go ahead, Tony.
I can't remember the name of it, but it's centered around this guy who he's dating, and he meets this online dating.
Yep.
And he meets this girl. I'm guessing it doesn't really work out, but it seems like they're still friends. And then he meets this other woman, and he really likes this other woman, and it seems to be vibing well, like friends with benefits and whatnot. Nothing too heavy, nothing too serious.
Yep.
And then
shit hits the fan.
She disappears, but like shit hits the fan with her, and she's texting him all this like extreme shit.
Ooh.
And just like turning into this like surreal like fucking stalker. And like the other woman that he was dating, that he was just friends with but wasn't really dating anymore, he's going after her, or she's going after her, and she ends up like burning the house down and like killing animals.
Was this a while ago you watched this?
Well, this was recently. This was released a while ago.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Fuck, I'm drawing a blank on the name now. Basically, what ends up happening is like a fucking twist that you don't see coming, okay? So like the one who's doing all the texting and whatnot, she's actually really dead. And it turns out to be the friend who's doing this to herself. She's like lighting her house on fire and killing her animals. She shoots herself.
Yeah, wow.
She shoots herself.
That's intense.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you. It's called Lover, Stalker, Killer.
Oh, I did watch that. And I watched that. Yeah, that was good. Man. That was good. That was good. Yeah.
I did not see that coming. I was like, holy fuck. Like, she's the one doing it all along.
Yes.
That was the most crazy, like, somewhat, like, why that has not been turned into a movie, I don't know. Because that's the most craziest fucking story that I have ever heard. And I've watched a lot of crazy documentaries on serial killer, but that shit, that chick, man, like that chick is batshit crazy, man.
Yes.
Like queen batshit crazy.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched it, I am telling you guys.
I watched it.
I know I've kind of spoiled it now. I mean, it's been out for a really
It has, and you had mentioned it or something on a Facebook post or something like that, and based on your recommendation, I watched it, and I thought it was really, really good. Okay. I think that's the one I'm thinking of, because yeah, it totally rings a bell. That was good. That was good, and there's a lot of great true crime documentaries out there.
You know what I just watched? Oh my God, it's so fucking heartbreaking. Like, there's just, look, man, I know you don't believe in this shit, but hell exists, and I hope there's a fucking special place in hell for people like this. The bridge guy with the 2 girls.
The bridge guy with the 2 girls.
Bridge guy. It's literally, he's called the bridge guy, and he kills these 2 young, sweet girls. I mean, just like you picture like 2.
Is this on Netflix?
No, this one I watched on, I can't remember if it was Paramount Plus or if it was on Max. Okay. But it's the Dell something murders. Someone in the chat room help me out, because I know someone is I'm pretty confident people know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
It's the Delphi, I think I want to say the Delphi murders. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's heartbreaking, because there's also documentaries on it on YouTube as well too.
Okay.
The one that I watched, that at the time they had not caught the killer, but now they've caught the killer. That's why I said bridge guy.
Right.
That's what they're referring him to. Okay.
I
mean, Dave, I'm telling you, just picture 2 girls, 11, 12 years old, small town America. Just
Brandon says Delphi murders.
Delphi murders. So that I believe it's on Cinemax. I'm almost 100. I'm a Cinemax. Max. I'm almost 100% that the one that I watched, Down the Hill, the Delphi. Yeah, that's the one I watched.
I'm gonna look for it.
And in that documentary, they hadn't caught, but now they've caught the guy. And it's just like, that's what I'm saying. Like, man, I hope there's a special place in hell for assholes like that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like why? Like, bro, why? Like, what is the reason behind doing this to these 2 poor kids? You know, like, there's just something, like I was telling Christina this, like, there's some things I can watch I can watch fucking Cannibal Holocaust. I can watch Art the Clown. My mind knows it's fake. When it comes to this real shit, it just like
scary, man. There's a lot of scary people out there.
Like, you just don't understand like how a person psychologically can go there, that they have made up, that in their mind that they have made this up, that they are going to kill these 2 little girls.
Right. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck did they do to you?
I know.
You know?
No,
like,
it's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Oh, shit.
I'm going to look for that.
Aaron Click says the Delphi murders happened just 25 miles from where you live.
Wow. Okay.
So that must have been some big news. I mean, obviously, you know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Josh McKenna sends in $9.99 again. Thank you, Josh, and says, would you be annoyed if you saw Snow White and kids were talking and laughing? Would you say something to the parents if kids were being loud? How much would you tolerate? That's a good question, because of the movie being a children's family movie.
I don't think it just regards. I think it's any movie for that matter, right?
Yeah. I think when it comes to animated films or children's movies or family movies, I think there's a certain, at least for me, I only speak for myself, there's a certain level of tolerance that I would have, especially if it's little kids, you know, but what's the context? Are the kids just running up and down the aisles?
I get what he's saying. So he's saying, like, if we were at a children's movie and there's kids in there, that if the kids were being like, yeah, I think you kind of know, like, if you're going into that atmosphere, probably going to be, you got to expect that.
Right. Exactly. So my tolerance level would be a lot higher. If it was, you know, cause it's kids, right? And if it's little kids and they're excited and they're laughing at the screen because something funny happens with one of the, you know, the dwarves, you know, it's kids. It's actually, it's beautiful in a lot of ways that these little kids are having fun, and it's innocent and it's sweet, and they're, you know, and like, you know, Tony said, I mean, you're going in to see Snow White. I mean, what do you expect? Now I don't think it should be, you know, a free ride for like obnoxious, intrusive distractions where like parents don't have control over their children and the children are running up and down the, you know, the aisles or tossing popcorn, you know, it can't be a brouhaha, you know, but in terms of just normal, regular family laughing, chuckling, and little kids or whatever, that's fine. It's Snow White, for God's sakes. You know what I mean?
Well, that's also a big reason why I don't go to those movies.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't
There you
really.
go.
I can't remember
There you are.
the last quote unquote kid movie that I went to. And I'm not even kidding you when I say this. Probably was when I took my brother to see the original 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Wow. Which, by the way,
that's kid movie, right? That's 25 years this year.
35. Too. Celebrated 35
35
years
35.
this year.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So that would be the last, like, quote unquote kid movie. I don't. Yeah.
Well, and you were a kid. You were a kid.
Oh yeah.
So.
We were 11, so,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've mentioned this many times on the chat. I'm not a big fan of animated stuff. Like, that never was my thing. Even as a kid, I didn't watch animated. I didn't watch cartoons. Never was really my thing.
Right.
So yeah, so for me, I don't go or put myself in a situation where if I know the movie is going to be kid friendly,
right.
Then
I do like a good animated movie, but I'm also.
You do. I know you do.
I do. One of my favorites is Zootopia. I thought Zootopia was fantastic, but I'm also a voice actor and I'm on cartoons, so that could also be why.
Well, yeah, that's true. You do voice a lot of cartoon characters, so
I do. So
now,
I appreciate it.
That's not to say, look, okay, I will say this because I did watch it recently. It came up. I don't know how it came up on my feed, but I just okay, I got to go watch this episode. There are occasional South Park episodes that I will watch. And there was this one here where Butters turns into a pimp. Oh my God.
Well, South Park, it's adult humor, right? Like Family Guy and,
right.
I love Family Guy.
I can get into South Park.
Right.
And so, yeah, Butters becoming a pimp I was like, because I saw a clip.
Right.
I'm like, all right, well, now I got to go see the context of this clip and I got to watch the entire episode.
Right.
So, yeah, that's about as far as I go with.
I got you.
Yeah. Now, I will say, I gave it an effort. I was really fucking pissed, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my God, I really wish Christina was sitting next to me because she would tell you how fucking pissed I was getting. I gave it a shot. I only got through 4 movies. But as far as because I got to put this, I would say, in kid category.
Okay.
Was the Harry Potter films.
Right.
I've never seen them.
Right.
Never watched them. And I'm telling you, the more I got into watching it, the more angrier I got. I was getting pissed. I was like, first of all, I went into this thinking that this was supposed to be the Michael Jordan of Wizards. Like, right. I thought he was this was the most luckiest kid on the planet. He had to get his ass saved every single movie. I thought he was supposed to be just like I said. I thought he was supposed to be whooping some ass and stuff. He was not.
Right.
And then if he almost dies in one, and then he gets fucking Twilight Boy killed. Spoiler alert for a movie that's been out for I don't know how many years now. And that was just what the fuck? They're killing off him, and I didn't like that, and I just finally stopped. But then I went to the prequels. The Fantastic Beasts movies.
Oh, yeah.
I actually like those. I did like those. I liked the first 3. The Fantastic. I don't know why Johnny Depp wasn't in the last movie. That confused the hell out of me.
I think it was the whole Amber Heard situation.
Oh, was it?
I think, but I stand to be corrected.
Yeah, because I was like, why are they recasting? That makes no sense.
I think.
But I will say, I'm not knocking if you're a Harry Potter fan. I just didn't like it. I was just I
That's
thought
all
he was supposed to be I said, I thought he was the Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant of Wizards, and he was not.
It's not.
And
you're not the target demographic, so it's totally.
I was I'm telling you, I'm on the phone with her, and I'm like, I hate this fucking movie. But then I watched the Fantastic Beasts movies, and I'm like, okay, this is more my speed. I think because I think it was more adult.
Well, it is. It is a little more,
and it's meant more for adults. Right. I like the guy who's the lead in that, who's also in Theory of Everything. I forget his name. He plays Stephen Hawkins in Theory of Everything.
Yes. That's not Timothy Chalamet, is it? No.
Is it Timothy? No,
it's not Chalamet.
No, it's not Chalamet.
No, it's somebody else.
But yeah, that guy who's in Fantastic Beasts in those 3 movies, those were good.
Yeah.
So I guess that's about as close. If it's done like that, the way that the Fantastic Beasts movies
they're fantastic. Yeah, they're fantasy movies, right? And
right. If it's fantasy movies but has more of an adult tone to it,
sure.
I'll sit through and watch it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Fans of something. Hello.
Eddie Raymond. That's his name.
Eddie Raymond. That's it. Speaking of Eddie, fans of something sends in $2. Dave, Haley got her Billy T today. Amazing. ETA on Blu-rays. So Blu-rays, again, we're not finished the BTS featurette yet. We're almost done the BTS featurette. And then we have to do the director's commentary, assemble all the materials, which is pretty much, in process. Everything is in flux. Everything is it's being created right now. And then we have to send it off to the company to create the Blu-ray. So I'm hoping, May, June, something like that. We do apologize for the delay, but we are getting everything else out there. So all hoodies have been sent out, all t-shirts have been sent out, all posters have been sent out, all signed posters have been sent out. Scripts are next to come out, signed ones, non-signed ones. All signed photos have been sent out. So we actually have sent out a lot of stuff already. And the Blu-rays are always the last to be done. But that's not unprecedented. I mean, Vincent DeSanti is just finally getting his Never Hike Alone 2s out. And that movie was released in 2023, I think. Cecil had a big delay on Dylan's New Nightmare because of his BTS. It's finally going to be sending out. So we're actually in a good spot. Like, our movie just released, a few months ago, and we should have these Blu-rays, ready to rock in the next two months here. So it's looking good. It's looking good. But I will keep you posted. I will keep you posted on it for sure. We appreciate your patience as always. And I just want to say, Liana, if this is the happy birthday girl, she just gifted 10 memberships. Amazing. Thank you, Liana.
So how does that work when someone gifts a membership? Well, I've been off of YouTube for a year. So
that's okay. Liana has paid for a membership for 1 month for Warren Armour, for Colin Murdy, Gold Standard, Tactical Therapist, Solitary Millennial, M Furio, Live to Fish, Warren Armour. I think, is Warren Armour one? Hang on a second. I got to go back. No, not Warren Armour. He's already, and Kenny 525 have all been gifted memberships from Liana, and Juan Rivera and D-Man W was also gifted a membership.
So when she gifts it to them, they get your membership perks for the next month.
For the next month. And then at the end of that month, they can choose to renew on their own if they want, or just let it lapse and not. I mean, there's no obligation to stick around. Obviously, it's greatly appreciated because it helps support the channel and it's fun. And you get little, certain perks with it.
You find liking the membership thing better than what was the
Patreon?
Thank you.
I do. For me, I do, because I don't think I'm and this is just me, if I was a bigger channel and I had more stuff going on and more content, then maybe Patreon would be really good. Now, YouTube takes more than Patreon does. Patreon's percentage that they take is less, but I made the executive decision to get rid of the Patreon because it's a separate website, it's a separate platform, and I thought, how cool it would be to move everything over to YouTube. And that way, when you become a member, no matter what tier, I just have 2 tiers, but no matter what tier you choose, when you become a member here on the channel, your name gets highlighted in the chat. So your name will be highlighted as green, as you can see. And depending on how many months you've been a member, as you can see, Warren Armour there. I don't know if you can actually hang on a second. Let me see. You'll see some members have a picture of me as Freddy Krueger.
Yeah,
they have a picture of the Halloween pumpkin. They have a picture of Victoria Miro as Sam from It's Me Billy, Reagan from The Exorcist, and that depends on how many months you've been a member.
Gotcha.
So if you've been a member for, I can't remember what it is now, but if you've been a member for 3 months, maybe you have Reagan as, your your little avatar. And it's fun and it's cool. And you get to send in member chats. So like super chats, you get a member chat, and a member chat is already paid for because you're paying to be, a member anyway, but you get access to send in a member chat question or comment, but it's highlighted green, so we see it. So whenever you see something that looks like a super chat, but it's green, that's a member sending in a question or a statement. So I like it. I think it's much more intuitive. It's much more interactive. And I think we have, with those memberships that Liana very generously gifted, I think we have now about 110, 115 members now. So nice. It's good.
You may want to mention, since you were talking, I meant to say this while you were talking about the things the It's Me Billy perks that let people know, since we're at episode 199, that after we do our 200th, which is only 2 episodes from now, that's when we're going to
Yes, that is correct. Yes. So we have not forgotten about those of you that picked up the 2 Dudes perk on the It's Me Billy Chapter 2 Indiegogo campaign almost 2 years ago. Tony and I are going to do episode 199 and episode 200, kind of get that out of the way. And then starting with episode 201, that's when we'll start with one of you for the...
get your topics ready.
That's it, because I will be inquiring very soon. So get your topics.
There'll be a test and a quiz.
That's it. And if you don't get at least a B+, you're out. You're gone. You're gone. No Blu-ray for you. No
Blu-ray for you.
No.
Cody, you're in McDonough. That's nowhere near my neck of the woods. That's like 2.5 hours south. Georgia's a big ass state. That is not near me.
No,
and that's not even counting the traffic. Yeah, Dave was telling me. I didn't realize this. I thought you were like a multimillionaire, dude. Dave was telling me you're a driver, that you drive around the country. Because I'm like, I told him we're connected on Instagram, and I'm like, yeah, I see that fucker like every other state, and I'm like, that dude's got to be loaded with money, man.
He's a trillionaire.
He's just everywhere. It's like, I want that life. And then he told me you drove around the country. I'm like, okay, that makes a lot more sense now. But for like this whole time, bro, I'm not kidding you. I thought you were like a gazillionaire and you're just traveling around the US. I was like, that's the way to live.
That's the way to live. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Let me just see. I haven't missed any chats or anything like that. I don't believe I have. Liana, fans of something. Josh, okay, cool. Cool. Well, any last things you want to touch on, Tony, before we wrap it up here?
No, I'm good. Let's make sure you got all the questions.
I did. Yeah, we can take a couple of non super chat ones.
Yeah, let's do at least a few non super chat questions.
Let's see here. Or any statements? Let me see. Brandon says, I haven't, but Tony, I don't think you have yet. I'm not sure. Have you seen This Is the Zodiac? Oh no, you have seen. Yeah, you did see that on Netflix.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil it for you because I want to talk to you about it once you have seen it.
Right.
But we have touched base on it a little bit. And again, it's very damaging circumstantial evidence pointed to who we all feel Zodiac is, even if you're not even a fan of the movie, if you just go by Robert Graysmith's book, and who the police felt at the time was. This just really just makes it. I mean, there's coincidence and there's fucking coincidence.
Right.
My only thing is that, and I told you that there's people who come out of the woodwork in this documentary that I'm like, where the fuck have you been for the last 50 years?
Right. Right.
And it's not that they're not credible, because they've got shit to back it up.
Yes.
They've got evidence, they've got photos, they've got video footage to back up, everything they say in this documentary. But it's like, where the fuck have you been? This whole time, like that's, my only question to that. But there's other things that they bring to light in there that I can't wait to. We are going to do a Zodiac episode.
We are. Yes.
There's just things and I'm going to counter it, because there's two documentaries that I've watched recently. Like Zodiac is like, for me, that's like my top. Like it's Zodiac. I'm watching it. There was one on Peacock where this guy countered it and was using his argument that there was no Zodiac. And I'm not going to get into all that. I'll save it for the episode.
Right.
But it's a very interesting counter argument to that there was no Zodiac. And
right.
I have things that, can easily dispute some of his claims, but the Zodiac case will, it's our modern day Jack the Ripper,
that's a good comparison.
I think what makes it so
Not so
fascinating
modern
is
anymore, but I know what you mean.
no, but I mean, when you put him on the scale of like,
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't even hit the numbers of Gacy and Bundy and
Right.
Night
Right.
Stalker. I mean, he was a real like, flash in the pan type,
Yeah.
but it's just the way he went about it. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yep.
And
Yep.
just, and it's the one that everyone wants to solve, but I just feel like it's going to be the one that's never going to be solved.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I tend
so
to agree. Mike
yeah.
Mack says, how many episodes per season do you guys want from the Crystal Lake series? I think 6 to 8 is a good number to not overdo it. My answer is as many as it takes to tell a good story.
Yeah, like the typical what we get for streaming
Yeah.
episodes, right? Like the 8 to sometimes they do 10, right? Depending on the show. But yeah, 6. If you let's just say we're doing an hour, right? An episode that's 8 hours. So that's
Yep.
what, 4 movies?
Yeah.
When you're taking horror, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. And slashers are not usually any longer than 85 to 90 minutes. So
That's what I mean. That's like
that's
almost
even
4
longer than
movies
that.
right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So yeah, 6 to 8 is like Dave said, as long as they're good, we're not getting shit.
Nobody's gonna care.
No.
Nobody's gonna care. Tom Ungurian, $5. Thank you, Tom. Says, Dave, with Blumhouse signing a new deal with Lionsgate, do you think his contract is up with Universal finally, or does he just have deals with both now? The short answer is I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. It's possible, but I don't know what was in the deal or how the deal is structured, so I'm not sure. I'd have to look into it. I don't really know. I didn't hear anything about him signing a deal with Lionsgate. Or maybe I did hear about that. I'm not sure. The short answer is I'm not really sure. But sometimes, I mean, I don't know how long his deal was with Universal. I'm not sure. So, I don't know. Brandon is usually up on these things. Do you know Brandon at all? What's with Blumhouse and his new deal with Lionsgate? I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into it. So
is he still trying to do Nightmare, by the way?
I don't think there's any movement on Nightmare. No. I don't think listen, Jason Blum would love to do anything.
Or just talk and
I think it's just talk. I think he would love to I think he'd love to do Friday the Look, I think he'd love to do everything. It's too bad, Blumhouse gets a bad rap as of late. But they are still, although A24 and Neon are right there, Blumhouse is still one of the big players in the game. And, I mean, if I had an opportunity to, work on a movie for Blumhouse, I'm certainly not going to turn it down if I felt I was, it's something I could do. But it's just the fact that they churn out so much, right? You know what I mean? And when you churn out so much, well, you're bound to have hits and misses, right? And so
I think that's what I like about A24 is that they churn out a lot.
Right.
But they churn out more good than not good.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, not every A24 horror film's a hit, I mean, like you said, it comes with it. But I will say this, when it comes to the two studios, they're usually almost always on the money,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Almost always. Not always, but almost pretty close.
Yep. And I like, the content they're producing. Obviously, I mean, Neon is starting to make a real big play with Long Legs, and they have, the Monkey, obviously they just did. A24, of course, has got Bring Her Back. The trailer comes out tomorrow, and yeah, it's great. I mean, it's great for horror. It's great for horror, and Blumhouse is a little more mainstream, a little more general movie-going audience friendly, not quite as psychological, but not that they can't dish out a psychological horror film. I mean, I haven't seen The Lady in the Yard or The Woman in the Yard, but apparently that's dividing people because there is sort of a psychological aspect to it. But Blumhouse does churn out sort of, often general movie-going audience friendly movies. And when I say general movie-going audience friendly movies, I don't mean necessarily you're going to like the movie. I just mean palatable movies like, Night Swim and just kind of just regular horror, everyday kind of films. But you do that a lot, and yeah, you're bound to have some hits and some misses. But they're still, one of the kings. I mean, any horror filmmaker, if Jason Blum called, nobody's going to go, oh, I don't think so. That's a phone call you're going to take. You know what I mean?
Offering you something, you're going to probably do it.
Yeah, it's a phone call you're going to take. Yeah, well, this has been a good show. Oh, hang on, Tom. Oh, no, I got that one.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, this was a good show. A very, very, very good show. Folks, that's going to do it for us here on episode 198 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. I want to thank you for joining us here tonight. Jump into the comment section and let Tony and I know your thoughts on supernatural infection horror or anything else we had to talk about here today, of course.
Suggestions that are within the It Follows, Smile, and Talk to Me, type movies.
Yeah.
Leave a comment and suggestion, because I'd like to check them out if they're already out.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. We'll be back soon. Maybe next week, maybe not. We don't know. We're kind of we're flying by the seat of our pants here, but we will be back very, very, very soon with episode 199. Oh my God, we're approaching 200. Thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. The super chats, and of course, thank you to our moderators as well. We really appreciate it. Any last things, Tony?
No, this was fun.
This was a good one. All right, folks. In the meantime and in between time, we'll talk to you soon. Cheers.